I think one of the coolest things in computer programming is AI, in particular AI that can be taught how to navigate and move around a 3D world. I love playing around with pathfinding and setting up challenges for my little agents to solve. In this video, I'll be putting Unity's built-in AI solution to the test. Let's see how it does. So first I set out to build a maze for my testing to take place in. After having looked at a bunch of different maze layouts, I decided to go with a classic, a traditional Pac-Man level. After finishing my model in Blender, I set up a basic nav mesh using the new nav mesh tools, which are available on GitHub. I then created a few agents with standard settings, as well as a simple script to control them. All it did was to tell the agents to move to the same location on the other side of the maze using the shortest possible path. To no surprise, the test ran smooth. However, because of the grid-like nature of the maze, some agents could run straight through, so I quickly modified the level to avoid this. Now it was time to start adding in more agents. Here's a test with just over 200. Still, everything was smooth, but I found it hard to keep track of each agent's position, so I tried adding random colors to make them different from each other. From looking at it, I noticed a few things. First, the agents tend to clump together. It seems that even though each of the agents are set to continuously look for better paths, they queue up instead of altering their route, which ultimately slows them down. Second, it looked to me like the agents in the back was first to reach their destination, whereas the agents in the front took a while to get going. To confirm this, I colored each row differently, and just as I thought, the yellow agents in the back were much faster. But they also seemed to start first. It looked like for some reason the agents were starting one by one, from the back to the front. A quick look at the documentation provided an explanation for this behavior. When setting an agent's destination, that agent will start calculating a path in the background. Once a path is found, the agent will start moving. So the agents were probably moving one by one because the nav mesh system only calculates so many paths at once. To confirm this, I wrote a quick script that would update the color of each agent depending on its current path status, and indeed the agents would turn green and start moving as soon as a path was no longer pending. Now of course I wanted to add more agents, but as soon as I got near 400 things started to slow down. So I opened up the profiler to try and find the culprit, and to my surprise 75% of CPU usage was currently being spent on rendering, while actually updating the AI was only taking around 6%. To make the agents render more effectively, I gave them all the same material and enabled GPU instancing. I also made sure to disable VSync under the graphics settings, and voila! CPU overhead went from over 60 milliseconds to only 6. Next I wanted to make all the agents start at the same time. To do this, I wrote a custom script that would loop over all the agents and calculate a path for each one. Then once all agents had a valid path, I would apply them all at once. The result was a smooth simulation of 400 agents. But that wasn't enough. I wanted more. So I expanded the maze and bumped it up to 1,000, then 5,000. At this point, my computer was starting to slow down. But before moving on, I wanted to try making some modifications to the maze to see how the agents would react. So I tried adding a wall with a hole in the center. I also tried adding a secondary hole to the side. As expected, this split the army in two. Those close to the side and those closer to the center. Now of course, 5,000 agents are plenty to do lots of testing with. But as I always try to tell people when they want to get into game development, the most important thing is to have fun. So I made the maze even bigger. I also downloaded a framerate counter from the asset store and started tweaking settings to see if anything would make the simulation run smoother. I created this spreadsheet to keep track of my findings. As expected, all settings related to breaking the nav mesh had no effect on runtime performance, so I quickly moved on to the agent component itself. Here I tried messing around with a bunch of settings, but the only thing that really had an impact was obstacle avoidance. Turning this off of course meant that the agents wouldn't avoid each other, but it did improve my frame rate by about 40%. I also tried the different obstacle avoidance qualities, but was surprised to see that the difference was no more than a couple of frames. At this point, I just wanted to squeeze as much performance out of Unity as possible, so I tried configuring rendering settings and even playing around with custom pathfinding solutions such as a star. I was impressed to find out that Unity's built-in nav mesh tools were still the fastest way to go. However, I will say that this might just be due to my limited knowledge of a star. Finally, by building the game, I managed to get the simulation running at 27 FPS. And so, it was time. Time for 10,000 AI agents. Of course, the simulation wasn't smooth. In fact, even as a standalone build, it was only running at around 10 frames per second. But still, it was wonderful to witness this swarm of computer-controlled robots mindlessly moving through the maze. Now I decided that 10,000 might finally be enough, but that doesn't mean there wasn't room for more fun. So I created an army. Then an army of cacti. Finally, I thought, what would be more suiting to end the day than hundreds of wild running horses? I know. How about hundreds of wild running horses riding towards the sunset? Perfect. Thanks to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in February, and a special thanks to InCode We Trust, Patrick McGinley, Diego Geik, Frank, Tristan Down, Diane Guyan, Beffy O, Infinity PBR, Yorai Omer, Hans Hoftoon, Cyborg Mummy, Derek Heemskirk, Faisal Marify, Beard or Die, Double Tap 45, James P, J Delay, Superman the Great, John Beauregard, Dennis Sullivan, Jason Latito, Alex Rikitsky, Björn Fudoknap, Svetlin Svilenov, Jin, Sasha Hopstein, Sune Jakobsen, Gregory Pierce, James Rogers, Robert Bund, Judaman, Rob Fern, and Erasmus. Whew. You guys rock.